On a clear night in 1945, 5 Navy planes vanished into thin air. Noreki, no bodies. No final scream over the radio, just silence. It happened again in 1948, and 1949, and 1963. So here's the question nobody has ever fully answered. What is actually happening in this stretch of ocean, and how much of it is real? Draw a line from Miami to Bermuda, another from Bermuda to Puerto Rico. Close the triangle and you've got roughly 500,000 square miles of open ocean, one of the busiest shipping and flight corridors on Earth. For over a century, ships and planes have gone into this triangle and never come out. Some of those stories are exactly as strange as you've heard. Some of them, as we'll see, are not what they seem at all. Here are 10 of them, the real ones, on the record. The phrase Bermuda Triangle wasn't coined by sailors. It was coined by a writer. In February 1964, Vincent Gaddis published an article in Argosy magazine that gave the stretch of ocean a name and a personality. A decade later, Charles Berlitz turned it into a best-selling book, and the legend went global. But the disappearances themselves, those started decades earlier. Let's begin with the one that many historians consider the true origin story. March 1918, the USS Cyclops, over 500 feet of Navy steel, carrying 309 men and 11,000 tons of manganese ore, leaves Barbados bound for Baltimore. Never arrives. No distress call. Noreki, no lifeboats. Nothing. To this day, it remains the single largest loss of life in U.S. Navy history with no combat involved, and the wreck has never been found. The Navy's own investigators called it the most baffling case in their history. The leading theory isn't a monster or a vortex. It's structural failure. The Cyclops was built to haul coal, not dense and her sister ships were later reported overloaded and unstable too. But probably isn't proof. And after more than 100 years, nobody has ever recovered a single piece of her. December 5, 1945. 5 Navy Avenger bombers take off from Fort Lauderdale on a routine training run. Flight 19. 2 hours in, the flight leader radios that his compass has failed and he doesn't know where he is. The other pilots report the same problem. As night falls and fuel runs low, the transmissions grow fainter. Then they stop completely. A rescue plane, a PBM Mariner with 13 men aboard, is sent out to search. Minutes after takeoff, it disappears too. A tanker in the area reports seeing a burst of flame on the horizon. Mariners were nicknamed flying gas tanks for a reason. 6 aircraft, 27 men, gone in a single night. The Navy's official verdict: cause unknown. Some Avenger wreckage was tentatively identified off Florida in 1991. But never conclusively tied to Flight 19. To this day, no one has recovered the 5 planes that started it all. January 30th, 1948. The Star Tiger, a British South American Airways Avro Tudor, is on the final leg of its journey from the Azores to Bermuda. 31 people aboard, including a decorated Royal Air Force Marshal. Just 90 minutes from landing, in radio contact, reporting good conditions, the plane simply stops transmitting. Nosos. Noreki, no survivors. The official inquiry called it, in its own words, one of the most baffling problems ever presented for investigation. Almost exactly a year later, January 17, 1949, the Star Tiger's sister aircraft, the Star Ariel, takes off from Bermuda bound for Jamaica. Clear skies, calm seas, no storm to blame this time. It reports its position once normally, then nothing. 20 people, gone without a trace. 2 identical aircraft from the same airline, lost within 12 months, in weather that should never have grounded them. British aviation authorities grounded the entire Tudor fleet, and the mystery of what took the Star Ariel down was never solved. January 31st, 1921. The Carroll A. Deering, a 5-masted commercial schooner, is found hard aground on Diamond Shoals off Cape Hatteras. Sails still set, as if she'd been sailing herself. When the Coast Guard boards her, there's no one aboard. The lifeboats are gone. So are the ship's navigation equipment and log. But in the galley, they find food laid out, untouched. Investigators looked at piracy, mutiny, even rum running gone wrong. A message in a bottle claiming the crew was hijacked later turned out to be a hoax by a man chasing headlines. Multiple federal agencies investigated. None of them ever explained what happened to the 11 men who vanished from a ship that never actually sank. February 1963, the SS Marine Sulphur Queen, carrying 39 crew and over 15,000 tons of molten sulfur kept liquid at 255 degrees, sends a routine position report in the Florida Straits. Is never heard from again. A 19-day search turns up only life jackets and scattered debris. No ship, no bodies, no distress call. The Coast Guard investigation later reveals something chilling. This ship had a documented history of hull fires and structural problems, and its inspection had been postponed so it could stay on schedule. Investigators narrowed it to 4 possible causes: an explosion, a broken hull, a capsize, or a steam blast, and, remarkably, refused to pick just one. Officially, the case remains unresolved to this day. August 28, 1963. 2 U.S. Air Force KC-135 Stratotankers are flying home to Florida after a classified refueling mission 300 miles west of Bermuda. Somewhere over open ocean at 36,000 feet, contact with both aircraft is lost at the same moment. Search teams find debris and an oil slick the next day. All 11 crew members are confirmed dead. Popular retellings claim the wreckage was found in 2 crash sites, over 100 miles apart, as if one plane had been transported impossibly far in an instant. Investigators later traced that second crash site to something much less mysterious: a tangle of seaweed and driftwood caught around an old buoy. The real mystery is smaller than the myth, but it's still a mystery. The Air Force's own report never determined exactly what caused 2 experienced crews to collide in clear skies. Here's one the legend got to keep for almost a century, until science caught up with it. On November 29, 1925, the SS Cotopaxi left Charleston for Havana with 32 crew and a cargo of coal. 2 days later, sailing into a growing storm, she vanished. For generations, she became one of the Triangle's signature ghost stories, even inspiring the ship that lands in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Then, in 2020, marine biologist Michael Barnett confirmed what he'd suspected for 15 years. A shipwreck long known to local divers as the Bear Wreck, sitting just 35 miles off St. Augustine, Florida, was the Cotopaxi all along. The ship's own distress signal from 1925 had described the same storm that sank her. There was never a vortex. There was a hurricane, an overloaded old freighter, and 95 years of nobody checking the wreck already sitting nearby. It's proof that some of these mysteries really can be solved, if someone's willing to do the diving. This one isn't really a mystery at all, but it's one of the most repeated Triangle stories ever told, so it's worth setting straight. In April 1925, the Japanese freighter Raifuku Maru supposedly sent a chilling, garbled SOS. Something like, "Danger like a dagger, come quick," before disappearing without explanation. For decades, writers speculated about waterspouts, sea monsters, even UFOs. Researcher Larry Kusch went back to the original shipping records and found the real story. The Raifuku Maru sank in an ordinary, if tragic, Atlantic storm, its wireless operator radioing for help in broken English as the nearby liner Homeric tried and failed to reach her in time. She wasn't even sailing through the Bermuda Triangle. No dagger, no misteri, just a storm, a doomed ship, and nearly a century of a good story beating out the facts. December 28, 1948. A DC-3 carrying 32 people takes off from San Juan for Miami. A routine run. Despite a known issue with weak batteries, the crew hoped the engines would recharge in flight. Just before 4:30 in the morning, the pilot radios that he's 50 miles south of Miami, expecting to land shortly. It's the last anyone ever hears from him. Noreki. Not one piece of debris in 80,000 square miles of searched ocean. The Civil Aeronautics Board investigation could not determine a cause, and to this day, the case remains officially unresolved. So, after 10 real, documented cases, what's actually going on here? Here's the part most Triangle specials leave out. Both Lloyd's of London, the world's oldest marine insurance market, and the U.S. Coast Guard have separately concluded that the Bermuda Triangle does not have a higher rate of disappearances than any other heavily trafficked stretch of ocean on Earth. It's simply one of the busiest corridors on the planet for cargo ships, small pleasure boats, and light aircraft, which mathematically guarantees more accidents will happen there, mystery or not. When researcher Larry Kusch spent years cross-checking the popular triangle stories against original newspapers, insurance records, and military reports, he found a pattern. Ships said to vanish in calm seas had often sailed straight into documented storms. Wreckage that was quietly found was often left out of the retelling. Some Bermuda Triangle ships, like the Raifuku Maru, weren't even in the Bermuda Triangle. But no statistical anomaly doesn't mean nothing strange is happening here. It means the real explanations are environmental, not supernatural. The Gulf Stream tears through this region as one of the fastest ocean currents on the planet, capable of scattering wreckage for miles within hours and erasing evidence before search teams even arrive. Sudden, violent tropical squalls can appear with almost no warning. And beneath the surface sits the Puerto Rico Trench, one of the deepest points in the entire Atlantic Ocean, deep enough to make wreck recovery nearly impossible even with modern equipment. There's also a genuine navigational quirk here. The Bermuda Triangle sits near one of the few places on Earth where true north and magnetic north align, meaning old-fashioned compasses needed manual correction that inexperienced or distracted pilots and sailors sometimes got wrong. It's real science. It's just not unique to this stretch of ocean, and it shifts position over time as Earth's magnetic field drifts. 10 cases, 10 real dates, real names, real families who never got an answer. Some of them turned out to have rational explanations we simply hadn't found yet. A wreck sitting quietly off Florida for 95 years, a mistranslated radio call blown out of proportion. Others, the Cyclops, Flight 19, the Deering, the Star Tiger and Star Ariel, the Marine Sulphur Queen, the DC-3, remain exactly what the official investigators called them, unsolved. Maybe that's the real story of the Bermuda Triangle. Not a supernatural vortex swallowing ships whole, but a reminder of how much of our own planet's oceans we still haven't fully explored, and how easily the truth gets outrun by a good story. The ocean doesn't lie. It just doesn't always tell us everything.